I'm tracking current road conditions and a look at the weekend ahead.
And we're out on the roads getting the latest conditions for you. KIMT News 3's Brian Tabick will have a full live report just ahead.
And in the middle of a snowstorm, it's hard to imagine not having a roof over your head, but that's the cold reality for some.
I mean, you can't go shower every night. You don't have a place to go sleep.
We're finding out what options the homeless have on a night like this. KIMT News 3 at 10 starts right now.
KIMT News 3, coverage you can count on. This is KIMT News 3 at 10.
Well, thank you for joining us for KIMT News 3 at 10. I'm Katie Lang.
And I'm George Mallet. First tonight, the storm is tapering off, but in its wake, the streets look like an unfinished painting, a perfectly white canvas.
It's kind of pretty out there. But wasting no time, let's go to KIMT Storm Team 3 meteorologist Sarah Knox. She is in the Storm Team 3 Storm Center. Sarah, what are you tracking? What do we need to know?
Need to know a lot. The snow, although starting to wane in some areas, is still pretty heavy in others. I'm going to pull out Storm Tracker here so we can take a peek. So places like Winnebago and Hancock County starting to see some relief from the snowfall. Signs of things to come. However, the same can't be said for Albert Lea, Austin, Lime Springs, St. Ansgar, Preston, really just along the border and up to I-90, still sitting that heavy band of snowfall. Now, we will see some additional flakes tonight, and I'll have a little bit more on that later on in the newscast. But for now, the winter storm warning holds on strong across the entire area, set to expire tomorrow morning. So that is some good news. It is coming to an end. But if you do have plans to travel tonight, which I do not recommend, things to keep in mind. We got to deal with the snow-covered roadways, the blowing snow as well, and some very, very cold temperatures. It's kind of like the wintry trifecta. It is what you would expect in January, but the road conditions are quite brutal. Let's take it outside, take a live look over Albert Lea. 8.5 inches of snow so far in Albert Lea. Of course, I'll have some snow total numbers for you, as well as what you can expect additionally coming up later on in the newscast. George and Katie.
Thank you, Sarah. Well, anybody who had to hit the roads today had to navigate some treacherous highways and byways. Here are just a few crash reports we've gotten in tonight. The first happening just before 2 this afternoon on I-35 at mile marker 16, which is close to Clarks Grove. The Minnesota State Patrol saying 4 vehicles lost control, colliding with one another. 3 of those were semis. The driver of the car suffered non-life-threatening injuries. And then just after 7 this evening, the Jeep and semi collided just a mile away near marker 17. Both drivers in that one sustaining non-life-threatening injuries as well.
KIMT News 3's Brian Tabick is out on the roads right now. Brian, what's it like where you're at?
Katie and George, you called the snow pretty. I say it's pretty dangerous. I've been on I-35 pretty much the entire day, and on my way back around 7:30, it just got to be a little bit too much. A lot of the blowing snow reduced the visibility, and then the blowing snow when cars passed you made it darn near impossible to see. So I'm now on 122 heading towards Clear Lake. You can see still some of that blowing snow. Turn on the brights here, you can see it looks again just like being inside of a snow globe. Tons of snow still coming down here, but the road conditions haven't been this bad all day. Packed snow and a little icy, road conditions changed dramatically over the course of the day. One thing that didn't change, people having to get somewhere.
I'm on my way to a new job.
When we left Austin yesterday morning, the high was going to be 75.
Well, 75 sounds much better than snow. Brian Sutton says it's time to be with the grandkids, even if it means poor driving conditions. Is it worth it?
It will be. Right now, you could question it, but it will be. When we're in a house and warm, it'll be fine.
The Iowa State Patrol says they've been handling calls all day for people going a little too quickly, as well as some slick spots on the roads.
One barely a wiggle, you know, so yeah, it's pretty good road conditions, really.
Troopers say the worst of it will be over tonight, and road conditions should be a little better in the morning, so those like Ryan Kopp who have to make the long drives should be a little safer.
I like these road conditions. That might sound crazy, but being from southern Indiana, we don't get this kind of weather a lot. Not to say I'd like to drive in a blizzard every day or whatever. Do you call this a blizzard?
Kopp still has a long drive ahead of him. He's hoping to make it to Fargo, North Dakota tonight, and end his trip in Montana by the end of the weekend to start that new job. Conditions, again, like I said, we're stopped at a stoplight right now, but it's blowing snow still coming down. The roads here on 122 are pretty much covered, very slick. Reduced speeds. The speed limit over here is 45 now, and I'm probably doing 20 most of the time down here. Just really taking it slow. It's something most people should be doing when they're out on the roads tonight. Katie, George?
All right, thanks a lot, Brian. I'm going to take a page out of Mr. Kopp's book and just keep smiling. And we will continue to update you on road conditions as this storm wanes.
New developments in the case of a police officer accused of sexual abuse. Julio Baez is now pleading guilty in all 3 counties he's been charged in. The former Casson police officer was initially charged in June after being found with what were described as self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Baez appeared in Olmsted County Court today, but he's been charged with 27 counts of criminal sexual conduct across Rice, Olmsted, and Dodge counties. The female victims were 4, 5, and 9 at the time. His sentencing has been set for April 3rd.
And we're continuing to follow a story we broke this morning. First responders not only battled flames this morning at a building in Clarks Grove, they also had to overcome significant obstacles just to get there. We're still working to learn more about just what caused this fire, but KIMT News 3's Annalise Johnson is finding out what it's like to respond to emergencies on roads coated in a deep frozen crust. Right, Annalise?
Katie, George, I'm here at Fire Station 4 in Rochester, and if possible, it's best if you can avoid staying out on the roads tonight. However, that isn't an option for ambulance services, law enforcement, and firefighters. Captain Caleb Fine explains that in order to stay safe when responding to emergencies in winter weather, first responders need the public's help. Big trucks can take longer to get going and stop, so drivers need to pull over and stop as soon as they see emergency lights behind them. Responding to an incident on an unplowed rural road presents unique challenges, but EMS crews have protocols in place.
What we do is we call it park to block, where we'll put a bigger piece of apparatus kind of upstream of traffic, and it'll help push them to the direction that we want them to go.
Law enforcement helps RFD with this practice to make sure that everyone involved is safe. Live in Rochester, Annalise Johnson, KIMT News 3.
All right, thank you, Annalise. I used to drive a school bus on snowy mornings. I can't imagine having to get to a destination at speed in a fire truck or an ambulance. Thanks.
Well, still to come tonight, we're finding out how some are turning the snowfall into cash.
Plus, we want you to get through this storm intact, how to shovel your driveway without throwing your back out.
And of course, we're all worried about those road conditions going into the weekend. Storm Team 3 meteorologist Sarah Knox is tracking those reports.
KIMT News 3 at 10, live from Rochester. Your local news with Katie Lang and George Mallet. Tracking storms with Storm Team 3 meteorologist Sarah Knox. Medical breakthroughs with Amy Fleming. This is KIMT News 3. Local news from your community. We are coverage you can count on.
Well, today's snowstorm has dumped nearly 7 inches of snow in some parts of the viewing area.
KIMT News 3's Caleb Gillock is live in Mason City with how some of the locals have been handling the snow on this frozen January night. Caleb?
Well, Katie and George, I'm out here in front of our Mason City studio where a lot of locals here in town have been doing this, shoveling snow this afternoon. Fortunately for all of us that have been out doing it, it's been a pretty light snow, which has made it really easy to move. But if you're going to be out with a shovel, you've got to be careful as it can become quite dangerous.
Well, it's not too bad right now, although it is still snowing. The snow is pretty light and fluffy right now, so it's not a backbreaker, just a little chilly.
Residents like Patty Stratman and Jennifer Anderson have simply been trying to keep up with the snow throughout the day.
Getting it taken care of. I don't know if the winds are supposed to pick up, so I'm just, being proactive, I guess.
Being proactive isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the National Safety Council says there are some precautions you should take when removing the snow. Things like stretching before getting to work, pacing yourself by taking frequent breaks and staying hydrated, using a smaller shovel or only filling it half full, and pushing the snow instead of lifting it to reduce fatigue and chance of injury. So if you're going to be outside with one of these, as silly as it sounds, you've got to be careful. Live in Mason City, Caleb Gillock, KIMT News 3.
Thanks, Caleb. The Mayo Clinic says that each year nearly 11,000 people are hospitalized due to snow shoveling related accidents. So take it seriously.
Well, and shovels aren't the only machinery being put to some pretty good use today.
Yeah, contractors who plow snow count on storms like this for cash. KIMT News 3's Alex Jurgen spoke with Mason City plow drivers to see how they are cashing in.
I actually kind of like it when they're the big ones, because then that way we just push it all at once and be done. But all the little ones, you know, you lose a lot of sleep. So
Mike Graff's crew is plowing parking lots at Target, Shopko, and Smithfield and appreciates the business.
I'm sure we're all competitive on price, and otherwise it'd be hard to find guys, because it's hard to find people to work late at night. A lot of guys just want to stay home and not do this. But there's a lot of guys that are like, hey, let's go. So.
Kyle Pram is a subcontractor and is part of a crew plowing lots at Mercy Medical Center, North Iowa. While they have other things to do, they enjoy making piles of wispy white snow.
Of course, the skid loaders and the bigger equipment's more than the trucks, but it's all good money makers. You know, we're glad to be out here and actually getting some snow finally.
So are they looking forward to more snow this season?
I hope it snows into June.
Snows into June?
Maybe not that late.
15 years this, I'm pretty good of not letting it snow. So.
In Mason City, Alex Jurgens, KIMT News 3.
Well, if you have any weekend plans that require travel, you'll want to stick around.
We're taking another live look at the roadways to see how they are shaping up as this night wears on.
And I continue to track those road conditions as we carry on through the night and into the overnight. If you have plans to travel, you really are going to want to stick around. I've got more on all this right after this.
Snowy and slick roads are causing dangerous conditions for commuters this evening.
KIMT Storm Team 3 meteorologist Sarah Knox joins us now with a look.
Yes, indeed, Katie and George, we do have those road conditions deteriorating, but they're not getting much worse than they were earlier on today. Now, we've got plenty of those partially covered roads that's indicated by the blue. The pink, though, that really stands out. Those are the completely covered roadways. So places like Rochester, Preston, Austin, even sinking down near Osage and going into Charles City, seeing those completely covered roadways. Not to mention, we're dealing with blowing snow. So that's a huge issue as well. A few of our DOT cams across the area show what we all know, snow. As we go into I-35 near Mason City, that's where KIMT News 3's Brian Tavick was earlier today. He's in Storm Tracker 3 now, driving around Mason City to give us a look again at the current road conditions. So I'm going to toss it over to him. Brian, what are you seeing?
Sarah, I'm actually right now in Ventura, and the road conditions are kind of strange here. You can see right now, you can't even see the roadways, can't tell where the lines are. A couple feet up, you actually have no problem. The roads are completely clean. And you're seeing that all the way down Highway 18 and 122 here. Definitely still reducing the speed limits, so you don't know where the slick spots are going to be. Turn the brights on, we'll have nobody coming the other way. Snow's still coming down, not as bad as it was earlier, but it's still creating some visibility issues. You know, that blowing snow you can see picking up on both sides of the road here, where it's just kind of actually hanging off and over the lines at some areas as well. But again, the road conditions are deteriorating. There's a lot of slick spots, and you never know on Highway 18, 122 where you're actually going to hit a spot that hasn't been plowed. You can see right now, the road is completely clean. A couple feet up, you can definitely see that it deteriorates very quickly. A lot of snow, a lot of ice on the roadway. So, Sarah, I'm going to send it right back to you. Live in North Iowa, Brian Tavick, KIMT News 3.
Thank you very much, Brian. It was kind of nice to see some of those clearer roads there, but the same cannot be said across the majority of the area. In Charles City, although the snow is starting to weaken, not by a ton, but at least a little bit, notice some people going very slow along the bridge here. That's what we want to see, people going slow, giving yourself plenty of room between the car in front of you and the car behind you. Live look over Rochester now, and we continue to see the roads, but the snow, but we're starting to see the city a little bit more. The flakes are lightening up, which is some good news. And believe it or not, the visibility is starting to improve, or it has over the last couple hours as well. 1.3 right now in Rochester, 2.5 in Charles City, 1.5 miles in Mason City. Still not the best. We usually like to see perfect 10s across the board, but we're still dealing with this right here. The snowfall, Storm Tracker 3 Doppler radar picking up on the heaviest of the snow just to the southeast, but it is skirting the Howard and Fillmore border, as well as getting into places like Decorah. So things to keep in mind there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Places like Lime Springs also dealing with some of that heavy snow right now. Harmony as well. We had some big numbers coming out of these areas. Zooming it out just a little bit more just to see the swath of this snowfall continues to make its way through, skidding the border. Lucky to say, though, Winnebago and Winnebago County is, Winnebago County is starting to see a little bit of that snow dry out, but the case is we're still seeing heavy snow bands across Albert Lea, Austin, Clarks Grove. Is really just going to continue skirting that border. As for the snow totals we have seen so far, St. Ansgar, 8.8 inches of snow. Austin taking the cake at 10, 8.5 in Albert Lea. Got 6.6 in Lime Springs. Again, this is just so far. As we continue through, we are looking at additional snowfall for the overnight. Good portion of us seeing about a trace to an inch during the overnight, but the rest of us around an inch to 2 inches. The system is moving off to the southeast and will continue to do so. Some 2 to 5 inch marks there. Sky Tracker 3 is going to pick up on the system as it moves out. By the time we get into these overnight hours, we are seeing a bit of the clearing. Starting in places like Albert Lea, Rochester is going to continue to move on out, leaving a few flakes behind. And believe it or not, we even get some sunshine as we head on into Saturday. So looking forward to that. The problem is we got some cold temperatures. Here's a look at the 7-day forecast where the weekend is always in view. Quite chilly for our Saturday with a high of 11 degrees. The next chance for some snowfall comes early morning on Sunday. I know so soon. It's going to be light. It's going to move on through quickly. It's really MLK Day Monday. Breezy conditions return with some accumulating snowfall. So we're going to get some more details on that as we push on through the weekend.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah. In still to come, we've all been there. They're pesky, they're annoying, they're those robocalls.
Yep, but there have been some changes on the federal front. Are they going to keep coming? Yep, they sure are. Stick around.
Well, hockey fans didn't let tonight's snow keep them from their favorite frozen sports.
KIMT News 3 Sports' Zach Gilliland was at the Rochester Grizzlies game where there was an arena filled with the ice-obsessed faithful, huh?
Well, guys, I'm still really cold outside, but there's plenty of snow on the ground, but that didn't stop those in Rochester from heading out to the rec center. NA3HL action between the Grizzlies and the Alexandria Blizzard. Well, the Grizz start off early. Vladislav Sorokin with the dash inside and snipes it top shelf for the early goal. He hits his 32nd goal of the season, then that will make it a 1-0 game. But then it's the Blizzard's turn. Tanner Freerich with a perfect precision in the top corner. Alexandria ties things up at 1 goal apiece. But this game, it was back and forth throughout. Roch, they're going to be on a breakaway. Lucas Newman to Sorokin again, who gets the one-timer. What a combo for the Grizzlies as Sorokin nabs his 2nd goal of the game to make it a 2-1 game. Well, every time they would score, Alexandria, they would answer right back. The puck is deflected around in the front of the net, but Brett Meister is there to put it in. Blizzard, they win 3-2. And over to women's basketball, it's an in-state rivalry as the Drake Bulldogs manhandled the Northern Iowa Panthers 88-64 in Cedar Falls. Bulldog offense, they were cooking all game. They shot 46% from the floor. And next up for Northern Iowa is going to be a date with the Evansville Purple Aces. Drake will have Indiana State. Well, it was a bad Tuesday night for the Timberwolves. They did not look good at all, losing by 42 to Jimmy Butler and the 76ers, and they gave up a lot of points. Well, they had a chance to right the ship tonight against the Spurs. But they did not do that. Minnesota lost again, 116-113, making it now the 18th time in the last 21 games where the team has given up more than 100 points. Next up for the Wolves, a Sunday night matchup against one of the worst teams in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns.
Hard to get healthy against the Spurs.
No, they're really good.
Thanks, Zach.
And what a day for the Timberwolves, what a day for all of us dealing with this winter storm snowpocalypse. Yeah, indeed. The road conditions are still quite treacherous out there, especially coming in and out of Rochester and places in North Iowa, seeing completely covered roadways. But there is an end in sight. We will have some sunshine, believe it or not, coming into tomorrow, but then dangerously cold temperatures.